Good day, everybody. This is morning number 1856. We are reading from How to Feed a Brain Nutrition for Optimal Brain Function and Repair by Cavin Balaster, who is an author that has had an experience much like Bertie Miller had, except that it was a different experience, but the same area of the body that was hurt. It was that the brain needed to be repaired. And so he discovered he was in a coma for a long time. And he discovered that food would have been the most important part of recuperating if they had given him proper food at the hospital instead of glucose syrup. Okay, so cells need the right fuel to function properly. Okay, and this cellular fuel comes from food. We're on page 22. She needed an eating plan that would maximize her brain cell function. This is as the weeks passed, Terry's condition began to slightly improve, but as an open-minded MD, Terry was aware that while our scientific advances are continually expanding, there is a great deal we do not yet know. She reasoned that there must be many nutrients that we do not yet know the importance of or that we have not yet discovered. And because nutrients are not found in nature in isolated pill form, Terry had the insight to take this list of nutritional supplements and to learn where they were in the foods that were available to her. Cells need the right fuel to function properly, and this cellular fuel comes from food. She needed an eating plan that would maximize her brain cell function. By incorporating functional medicine concepts, principles of evolutionary biology, and ideas that were born out of her own research, Terry set out to create an eating plan to regain her nervous system function. After countless hours spent researching and organizing thoughts, Terry now had a collection of foods to add to her diet that seemed to match up nutritionally to the list of supplements that she had been using. This, she says, is, quote, when things really began to change in her brain and body, end quote. Just after 3 months on this new diet, as well as a specific regimen of different exercises, she went from a tilt recline wheelchair to being able to walk from exam rooms using only one cane. After 6 months, she could walk around the entire hospital without a cane. She now enjoys hiking with her family and recently completed an 18-mile bike ride. In her book, The Walls Protocol, WAHLS Protocol, she explains how she beats MS with diet, lifestyle, and targeted therapies, and she lays out a nutritional protocol for others to follow for their own health. You can learn more about Dr. Walls at feedabrain.com/Terry /Terry. How does that apply to my brain? You may wonder what Dr. Terry Walls' story of healing from the effects of multiple sclerosis has to do with our brain function or repair. As I mentioned before, what it all comes down to is the health of the living cell. Because the cells within the central nervous system are what have been affected in both of our ailments, it does not matter that Terry, myself, or those with other neurological disorders have very different conditions. Whether the condition is a neurodegenerative disease or brain injury, the nutritional support for brain cells, neurons, and glia is universally needed. As discussed earlier, inflammation anywhere in the body may inflame the brain, So, by implementing nutritional changes to support brain health, we will also be supporting overall health. After my injury, I needed to find a way to support the health of my neurons and glia nutritionally, and Terry's research and publications acted as an amazing roadmap towards my recovery. She had the brilliance, the motivation, and the resources to figure out how to supply the cells of her brain with the best and most effective nutrition to function. And she had written a book about her experience, The Walls Protocol. Among other important therapies, I included many aspects of Dr. Walls's nutritional protocol in the recovery of my brain and body. I saw the positive difference these nutritional changes made in me. In an effort to help others attain results and improve their lives, I have included in this book many of the nutritional tools that I have learned to optimize brain function and repair. I am delighted and honored to say that Dr. Walls has been very supportive in my journey to bring this book into existence in order to get this information into the hands of you, your family, or your patients. Chapter 3: The Ins and Outs Overview. What to include and exclude from our diets? Many popular diets focus on restriction, caloric limitation, or avoidance of certain food types. Commonly, their strategy hinges on the demonization of nutrients like fats or carbohydrates, or entire food groups like meat, dairy, or grains. While it is important to steer clear of foods that will undermine our success, the outs, this book is more focused on on including the foods we want in our diet, the ins. After including the foods we want in our diet, little room will be left for the small list of foods to avoid or eliminate anyway. Let's begin with a bird's eye view of the Feed a Brain meal plan. Once we address some common dietary limitations, we'll dive into the specifics of how and why the dietary changes outlined in these pages supply the brain with the nutrients we want for optimal brain function and repair. Now, we are reading from Cavin Balaster's book, How to Feed a Brain, and we are reading from trying to bring more of the wisdom into the world that people know the right things to do for themselves and for the world to bring value to humanity. We're on page 24 of the book, How to Feed a Brain. Vegans and vegetarians. Most vegetarians and vegans tend to be very conscious about the effects of their food choices on the environment, on their bodies, and on the ethical treatment of animals. This is a consciousness that I share and respect, as I have become more aware of how food affects our physiology. I also wrestle with the unsustainable and unethical treatment of factory farmed animals. Unfortunately, a strict vegan or vegetarian diet, unless carefully practiced and supplemented, often results in deficiencies of some important nutrients like vitamin B12, calcium, iron, zinc, EPA, DHA, and other nutrients that many experts agree are needed for brain recovery, repair, and optimization. While I completely understand and respect the choice not to eat animals for ethical reasons, if the choice is influenced heavily by optimal nutrition, please read on with an open mind and heart as we explore the types of food that research has shown to best support the nervous system. The most important nutrient that is rarely supplied adequately in a vegetarian or vegan diet is DHA, a kind of omega-3 fatty acid that is largely found in cold water fish like mackerel, sardines, salmon, and tuna. DHA use in treating TBI. Even though the use of DHA has not yet become a standard part of clinical practice, research showing the importance of this nutrient to brain health and repair is becoming more widely understood. As you will see, DHA has been shown to be extremely useful towards TBI recovery and neuroprotection. The resilience and preservation of neuronal structure and or function. That's the neuroprotection. After finding very favorable results in a study testing the use of DHA after a severe traumatic brain injury, diffuse axonal injury in rats, the West Virginia University School of Medicine conducted a follow up study to see the effect of DHA supplementation before a brain injury. The study found that rats who were supplemented with DHA before a brain injury showed less damage done to the brain after, as well as better brain function as assessed by maze testing. Omega 3s have also been used in humans to treat traumatic brain injury. One such study is the American Journal of Emergency Medicine. One such study in the American Journal of Emergency Medicine presents a case study about a teenager who sustained a severe TBI in 2010. Like me, he was diagnosed with diffuse axonal injury with an initial Glasgow Coma score of 3, which is the lowest possible score. No response to any stimuli, but still alive. Thought to be in a permanent vegetative state, he was given a gastric tube, PEG, and a procedure was performed which left him breathing through a tube protruding from his neck, a tracheotomy. 10 days after the injury, he was given a large dose, 15 milliliters, which is about 13 grams, twice a day of Nordic Natural or Ultimate Omega via his PEG feeding tube. On the 21st day, he was weaned off the ventilator and soon progressed from vegetative state to attending his high school graduation 3 months later. Information on the product used in this case study and other high quality fish oils like it can be found at feedabrain.com/omega. Is there a vegetarian source of DHA? DHA is considered a quote conditionally essential end quote omega 3 fatty acid, meaning that our bodies can create this important fatty acid from other nutrients, but the conversion of almost all vegetarian sources of omega 3s to DHA is not efficient. For example, flax, walnut, mustard seed oil, and other vegetarian sources of omega 3s do not actually contain any DHA, only the precursor to DHA, ALA. In biochemistry, a precursor refers to a substance that can be used to make another. That means ALA can be used to make DHA, but unfortunately, even the ability of healthy people to convert ALA to DHA is estimated to be only 0.2% to 4%. In our body's poor means of converting most vegetarian sources of omega 3 fatty acids to DHA seem only to be in place as a backup to getting this nutrient directly from animal sources. Luckily for strict vegans and vegetarians, there does seem to be a possible vegan supplement of actual DHA. This source is derived from algae and may provide the same benefits of animal sourced DHA, though further research is needed. You can find more information on this vegan source of DHA at feedabrain.com/vegan. As you can see, DHA is incredibly important, and without targeted supplementation, DHA is scarce in a vegan or vegetarian diet. I encourage fish consumption and or supplementation of fish oils for this nutrient. Some vegans and vegetarians choose to supply this nutrient by supplementing with algae oil. Others have made the decision to take the higher dose and less expensive DHA content available by supplementing with the high DHA fish oil. Still others have made the difficult decision to change their ideology and move away from vegan or vegetarianism by switching to a pescatarian diet including fish, with fatty fish like tuna and salmon. Information on algae-based vegan DHA supplements can be found at feedabrain.com/vegan. We're reading How to Feed a Brain. Nutrition for Optimal Brain Function and Repair by Cavin Balaster. His ideas are absolutely in line with current neuroscience and have the added validation of personal experience, says Dr. David Perlmutter, MD, FAC, and author of New York Times #1 bestsellers Grain Brain and the Grain Brain Whole Life Plan. Wow. Okay. Okay. While the author says, while I regularly eat vegan fare, I am not and never have been a vegan or vegetarian. Therefore, my experience with these dietary practices while still supplying brain building nutrition is limited. While I will be providing some supplementation alternatives, a vegan or vegetarian meal plan is beyond the scope of this book. If a vegan or vegetarian diet is desired, it is advised that you take this book to your dietitian to develop a meal plan that still supplies enough of these foods to make a strong impact on neurological health. Outlining these nutritional guidelines. The primary nutritional objective of this book is to provide practices that can be used to incorporate certain kinds of fruits, vegetables, and meats, as well as fats and other nutrient dense ingredients that improve brain health and function. Whether eating conventionally or through a gastric tube, this book will supply recipe guidelines that will help the brain get the nutrition it needs to best support the nervous system. Our meals and smoothies will consist of vegetables, fruits, healthy fats, and protein, mostly from animals and fish. We will incorporate soups, stews, salads, and smoothies, which can be eaten whole, pureed, or fed via a gastric tube. This gives families with members who are not eating conventionally or an opportunity to eat the same meals together, which helps to bring some normalcy to family dinners. Let's start with a simple outline of the foods we want to add, avoid, and completely remove so that we can begin to wrap our head around the concepts as they are later explained. First, we will look at the foods that we want to avoid, and then we will address the two foods that we will need to temporarily remove completely, why we want to remove them, and how we can keep them out of our diets. Foods that are removed from this meal plan should be removed 100% for at least 60 days. Foods that are to be avoided can be consumed in small quantities, but they should be avoided because they are not nutrition for optimal brain function and repair. Though they are allowed, quote unquote, we want to leave as much room as we can for foods that will supply our brain with the best nutrition. After covering the foods we will be removing or avoiding, the bulk of this book will cover what foods supply nutrition for optimal brain function and repair, why we want enough of them, and how we can pack all of these supportive nutrients into our diets. Often, when we are given instructions without understanding why, it feels as if we are following the instructions for no reason other than that we have been asked. When we have a better understanding of why we are making certain changes, we are empowered to take our health and recovery into our own hands. An outline to feed a brain meal plan. He has photos, he has pictures and diagrams here. These handouts are generally, he says, they're generally too detailed to produce very clearly in this book. So go to feedabrain.com/handouts to pull up the handouts on your computer or smartphone in a full-size colored PDF format. An outline to the Feed a Brain meal plan. There will be several reference charts throughout this book, and I recommend that you print them out and put them on your fridge or somewhere else that is easy to reference while preparing food. Questions tend to come up when our hands are full, we're short on time, and or we're just too hungry to find this information and to sift through it for the simple answer. Being able to simply glance at an image or chart to get an answer prevents us from making assumptions or giving up. Even though what we will be limiting or removing from our diet is not the focus of this book, in order for us to reap the benefits of the brain building nutrients that we will be providing, the ins, that we first need to remove the foods that will stand in our way of our progress, the outs in the way of our progress. If we continue to eat foods that are inflammatory to us, even if we bring in all the right nutrients and anti inflammatory compounds, the damage that these inflammatory foods are doing will only be slowed. Think of it like this: if every morning we slam our thumb in our desk drawer, it doesn't matter how many painkillers, anti inflammatories, topical ointments, fancy band aids, or nutritional support protocols we provide, our thumb will not heal until we stop slamming it in the drawer. Let's stop slamming our thumbs in drawers. Let's remove or reduce inflammatory foods from our diets. The first handout that I would like you to print out or view online is an overview of the foods we want to include and exclude from our diets in order to heal and to optimize our brains. The ins and outs, what to include and exclude, is what it's called. Adapted from the Walls Protocol by Terry Walls and Eve Adamson. Copyright 2014 by Dr. Terry Walls, LLC. Used by permission of Avery, an imprint of Penguin Publishing Group, a division of Penguin Random House, LLC. For your convenience, all charts can be found as printable, full-size color PDF files at feedabrain.com/handouts. Now, these are really small, so what I will do is next time I will make a copy of this and put it out, or put out the PDF. And as we speak, there we shall go. It is time to go, and I hope you have a great day. I hope that you're inspired to do something that's right for your brain, and I'll talk to you later. Okay, old Kinderhook.